1 minute warning, 1 minute warning.
Oh, there's no water in there? Oh, well, hopefully it's a short meeting.
Should be a short meeting.
It's nice to have a light meeting.
I know, absolutely. Straight up, we are starting this meeting. If we could all start with the Pledge of Allegiance, right to my left and your right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, super. So most of you are usually here, so you know if you came in, there's an agenda right into the right there. I will walk you through that as we go. We are on number 2, calling to order, and I'm calling this meeting officially to order at 7 o'clock straight up on September 5th on this beautiful Thursday. Usually it's a Monday. So if we could have the roll call, clerk, that'd be great.
Mayor Turnbull.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Morosky Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Carter.
Here.
Councilmember Janetti.
Here.
Councilmember Krebs.
Here. Great. So we have a full quorum. We also have Ann Gephardt from our law firm. She's at 35th District Court as our prosecutor. I see her over there as I've been the chair of the 35th District Court. So I thank you very much for sharing your time and talents here tonight. We always like somebody in the legal profession here to keep us straight, don't you know? So thank you so much. With that, I'm going to go through what you have in front of you is the agenda for tonight. This is pretty unusual. It's pretty light. We actually might see sunlight before we leave here tonight. This should be very straightforward. Okay, I knock on something for goodness sakes. Would have before that. So this is true. So we might see that sunset tonight. So that is the agenda. If there's something, I will ask in a minute on the consent agenda if there's anything to add at that point. But the agenda that you have in front of you, again, pretty straightforward on what we're looking at tonight, just looking at the adoption of the tree ordinance and yes.
We could just add those now.
Okay. That would be great. So at this point, you have the agenda that's in front. Is there anything to add to that agenda?
So I'd like to request for the council to add the purchase of a fire vehicle. It's a purchase of a Ford F-150. And it's in front of council members for the Northville Fire Department for $57,500.
Okay.
And I would ask that that be added to consent agenda.
So we'll do that as C.
No,
No,
no, N.
Sorry.
Got you.
Yep.
So adding that to the consent
Yep.
agenda. Okay, I got you. Not onto the agenda.
Not on
tonight.
And then, so that would be at N,
Okay.
and on the consent agenda. And then
Gotcha.
I would like to add 2 items. One is the reappointment to Liquor License Review Committee, Jim Petrus, and the other are appointments to the Housing Commission, also reappointments, Jan Villat and John Crampton. So I'd like those added as O and P.
Okay, absolutely. On the consent agenda, I am open to do that. Absolutely. So with that, we have an agenda and we have a couple things to put on the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to go forward with the agenda?
So is it okay? I'll just condense. Can I just approve the agenda and the amended consent agenda
Yes, you
as
can.
submitted?
Yes, you can. Oh, clerk, you can keep up with us on that. Good. So we have that. We have a motion properly supported. Any other discussion on that? Great. Seeing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Great. We have an agenda. Let's go forward here. So tonight we have an update. So we're on section 4, if you're following on your scorecard out there. Ford Field Gateway. We've had a presentation. We've had a huge presentation. We've asked for updates as we're going down the road. There's nothing we're voting for here tonight on that. But Wendy, if you would come up to the mic. And again, let people know in general, you know, the Reader's Digest version where we've been. We have people on line and those here. So thank you so much. And you have quite an
Yeah.
introduction there from the police department.
There.
That's your-
So,
Thank you.
hello all. I wanted to just take a minute to visit with you tonight about the Ford Field Accessible Gateway Project. The last time we actually were in front of you and talked to you about this project formally was in February. And so it's been quite some time. Since then, we did have a community meeting in July, and we shared some updates with the community. But we just wanted to kind of bring you up to speed on where we're at with that project real quickly. First of all, to remind everybody, that project is looking at three different things: establishing a pedestrian connection between Ford Field and the downtown and the business district, constructing an accessible entrance into Ford Field from Hutton Street, and then stabilizing the embankment. When we talked to you in February, we presented a plan to you and we said, hey, we love this plan. It's great, but it's about twice what we have the budget for. It was in the range of $1.5 to $1.7 million, and we have 910,000. So council provided us with some direction on some areas that they felt were most important and would like to see move forward. But you asked staff to work with our engineering consultant to get the project scope down to be as close to the budget as we could, and then come back with some options for you for moving forward. So I did want to share with you what we have been doing since February, because we have made some great progress, but we do have a ways to go. First of all, one thing we did is we've received the Eagle permit for the project. It's a floodplain permit, and we worked through that process, which involved some revisions to the specific location for the pathway and whatnot, but we did receive that permit, which is a big step. We've been through several months actually of evaluating the viability of burying the utility lines. We've, heard a lot of discussion about whether we can bury the utility lines along Hutton Street. And what we discovered is that really was economically expensive. So, and it also had some real challenges from a coordination standpoint and a timing standpoint. So what we have discussed with DTE is installing taller poles, raising those electrical wires up, cleaning up all of those wires that are currently on there. Many of them are from joint users, which is telecommunication companies. And so DTE will work directly with them to clean up all those low-hanging wires. So that is something that they do as part of their normal maintenance. So there's no additional cost to us for that. So it's the difference between several $100,000 or no cost. And so we have worked that option out with DTE. So we're in a position of being able to move forward with that as well. We also coordinated the schedule of the Gateway project with the Randolph Drain project. So we've been working with the Drain Commissioner's office because we're interested in having the Drain project be completed before we start the Gateway project. That reduces or minimizes the risk of two contractors being in conflict with one another, or one project doing work that then another project has to impact or destroy. So we've coordinated that schedule. We also have requested a grant extension. The current grant expires on or has an ending date of December 31st of 2024. We requested an extension for a year to December 31st of 2025. We have received feedback from the granting agency that they don't see an issue with that. They do have to follow up with some paperwork. So we may be back in front of you with approval of an amendment. I'm just not sure exactly what's required. So, but we have been following that process. We secured a financial contribution for the project from the DDA. They have committed $100,000 over 2 years. And so that helps with our budget bottom line. So that's great. And our finance director identified some interest for us on this project. The way this particular grant funding source works is, interestingly, they give you 50% up front. And so we have had money in a reserve account, and that has been gaining interest. And so we've identified that as some increased revenue as well. So that was a positive. We have finalized a site improvement plan that reduces the project deficit substantially. But I don't have specific numbers yet, and I'll share with you why that's the case here shortly, but it still is over budget. And so we may be in a position of needing to request an additional allocation. We're going to work through that process through the construction bidding process. So when we come back to you next, we'll have some more specific numbers. And just to let you know what that schedule is, at this point in time, we're looking at probably going out to bids at the end of this fiscal or end of this calendar year. So somewhere November, December, January, around the holidays, it's a real funky time to bid. You know, you just have to watch everybody's schedule. But then we are anticipating coming back to you probably in February with real costs, where we'll be able to say, here is the base project, sort of the bare bones, and here are the buy-ups. That's sort of the process we had discussed with council. So, you know, if the base project is $830,000, then you could choose, you know, we want to do a different type of fencing or we want to do something else. So, but we'll be back to you with real numbers. We didn't want to have additional conversations until we had some updated information for you. So we should be back to you, like I said, probably in February with some real numbers on the project. And then the final thing that we've done that really is kind of exciting is we've actually pulled the repair of the stairway out of the primary project, and we're running that as a separate project. So we've developed the design to repair the staircase. That is currently out to bid. We'll be opening bids on that next week. And so we will potentially have a contract recommendation to you at your next meeting, though
Right.
it may not be to you until the beginning of October.
Could be built this fall.
And so it'll be built this fall. And again, looking at that timing, we're looking at repairing the stairs so that when we start the work of the Randolph drain and we have to block that access, we still have access on the stairs. And then when we come, when the Randolph drain is done, then we come in with the Gateway project. And so that's how we've orchestrated that schedule.
Excellent.
And then the work with the power poles, that will probably happen sometime in the next 3 months or so as well. We're hoping before the end of the calendar year. So then that'll be taking place while Randolph Drain is going on, but after the stairs are done. So, you know, we've got a lot of these moving pieces that we feel we're getting into a pretty solid schedule now that we're comfortable with. So that's the update in a nutshell. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, you'll see me back for the stairs in a meeting or two, and then Ford Field again, or I'm sorry, the Gateway project in February, probably.
Right. Let me start by saying, thank you for getting those stairs pulled out because, you know, I have a lot of opportunities like all of us on those stairs, on the safety and what have you. So that will be great this fall to have it up and going. And we will talk about the fencing when we get to the next meeting. And we've had some internal meetings and external meetings with Ralph Wilson Foundation, others to help us on some of these things around the river and some foundations. I haven't given up 100%, but I will in the next couple days on bearing the lines. There's one more come to Jesus with DTE on bearing the lines. That is the right thing to do, you know, for the long term. But if we put them up 45 feet, you know, with the long poles, they have to replace those. But I am not quite done with that. In fact, I had a notice this afternoon that we will all get together to talk about that. So that is, I haven't given up the battle with them. We've had 2 or 3 come to Jesus's with the DTE, and we appreciate that tremendously, but we need one more. So thank you for all the work and the consideration on that. And we will look at the option on fencing, and maybe they will just pay for all the fencing on that. So thank you for all the work. That's all I have. A lot of work has been going in on this behind the scenes, and we want to do it the right way, long term, get rid of the wires. And we all know that's the right thing, but $500,000 to do that. And DT was going to do most of that. Now it's coming to us. We just can't, we can do bigger things with those dollars, but thank you. You know, my opinion. Others that have.
I just have one question. When, this is just from me being new, once you got the from 24 to 25 for the grant. Does the Eagle permit kind of just go with it as well? You don't have to reapply for a permit?
No,
Okay.
we won't need to reapply for a permit, though that is an interesting question. I don't honestly know if the Eagle permits expire.
I don't know.
So that I've actually never asked that question. So I'm going to, so
right.
that I can learn. But no, I know that permit will be in place, to definitely to cover this
Well,
project.
congratulations on all this stuff. That's
Absolutely.
good job.
It'd be the biggest thing we've ever done in Norfolk, but we have all these other things going on at the same time. Yes.
Yeah.
Others.
Oh, Wendy, I'll keep going down this side of the table. Any update on playground and restrooms while we have you up?
We have phase 2. We didn't even talk about phase 2, but in general.
No update on the restrooms. I heard from our grant coordinator that the projects have been evaluated and we should have our preliminary score any day now. She said the beginning of September, so fingers crossed on that. She's already given me the heads up that there's a few things that we'll need to do to sort of give them additional information, but we'll hear on that hopefully in a couple of weeks. And then on the playground, we are working with Spalding DeDecker and our playground subcommittee, task force, playground committee to develop some preliminary designs and information so that we can start doing some fundraising here in the fall.
Feel free to add into the playground. I was down there last weekend and there was a kid who did not want to use the porta potty and was screaming.
Yep.
At his mom.
Yes.
Absolutely. So no, in general, it's phase 1, phase 2. The first phase is about $2.5 million, up on top with the different grants and what have you. The second phase is another about 2.2 or $2.3 million. That's the playground structure. That's the bathrooms with adult changing stations for all of us, and maybe a little additional parking and some irrigation activities. So that is phase 2. It'll be a fantastic, area, a placemaking area when we're done, but this is a big deal. So we're not quite there. We'll get excited when we get there. And I'm all about one water treatment there for the kids, so we are still working on that. We have somebody to sponsor that in the future, but let's get through phase 1 first. Others.
Yeah, so mine will be pretty quick. First, thank you, because I recognize we constantly are asking for more and then asking for it to cost less. And I know here and in every sidebar conversation, that is the game and that's never an easy thing. So I appreciate you guys getting creative. One quick comment. I'll admit, I do not like the idea of the power lines. Frankly, the power lines are right up there with chain link fence, and probably the only thing I don't like more is being over budget. So I recognize where we're at and the challenges. The one thing I would ask is don't hesitate to come. I know typically we end up always getting a project where it's, here's the final proposal, vote yes or no. If you're going through and having conversations of trade-offs, and no, bathrooms are not a trade-off. But I would much rather have you come in, use us to get feedback on those priorities as we start to think about, here's what the budget is, here's where things are at. Does council have a priority between? So it's not always being put back on you to try to figure it out, because what you'll find is we draw really hard lines until we have to do the math ourselves, and then we'll have the same conversations that you guys are having, trying to put the numbers together to make it work. So that would be my only ask. Definitely don't hesitate. And then the other item is, I know we're getting the extension from a grant to December of 2025. Do we have an updated date and target for completing the overall project from our timing perspective? Because obviously we can't keep going back and moving the grant. So
Right. The schedule we are looking at currently would have the project completed by the end of the summer this next year.
Next year? Okay.
2025. So we would, if we're in front of you in February, we're looking at probably starting the work as soon as weather allows in, I would say, April. It's kind of funky Michigan weather, of course, and then they'll work through the summer.
sounds good. Thank you. Barbara.
Well, I'd support what John's asking. Please come to us sooner than later for making those cost trade-off decisions. It almost seems like February is kind of late, but but I understand why you're saying February, but sooner than later will be good for all of us. The other is that I really appreciate this staging, this logistics of doing this. And thank you for, I think, pulling forward the stairway getting that work done as well as for the DTE.
Right.
I don't know if we can pull a rabbit out of the hat on that one to
Right.
get them buried, but keep trying, right? But related to the stairway, and this is a minor issue and should not be a cost issue, but because when that's redone, one of the things that's been mentioned at public comment, and I know it's near and dear to my heart, is right below those, all along that area in the Ford Field are those old historic stadium seats that are there. You know, they're just cement, but they are definitely look like seats as you go down. And there is a really good viewing area of those seats at the stairway. So when you go, however it's going to be with that, where the platform is,
Mhm.
you can actually see and look. And what's happened over time is just dirt's gotten on them and stuff. So I know they're gonna have to clean up their debris anyway and do some cleanup under those stairs and probably adjacent to them. And they could also have some attention to cleaning those and maybe doing it so that, sediment doesn't roll down them anymore and that kind of stuff. I imagine there would be some cost to it, although not too much. But it is really nice seeing those, even though they can't be used anymore.
Well,
So-
I think what's good about you bringing that up, and thank you for that. They're going to need to replace all of the decking.
Mhm.
So, which means it's all coming off and it's going to be easy access to those stairs underneath. So that would be an excellent opportunity to make sure those are cleaned
Yeah,
up.
just in a smaller area, obviously
Yeah.
not in others, but so thank you. And I look forward to the next update when we have to make some tough choices.
I'm just wondering if that could be a public service project for one of the school groups.
Yeah. it might be
That's a
good
pretty steep.
I know it is, but
You gotta get under
As
the
kind of the
stairs.
historian, I've been
That's-
asked maybe a plaque down there saying what it was and some pictures.
Oh,
Because
that
that
would
is the
be-
staircase that went down to Ford Field back in the day and the bleachers are to the right. So yeah, cleaning it up, saying what it is, what you're looking at. So
Oh, that
we,
would be a
we will
great
look at that, because that's kind of a landing area. You could put it right there and you're looking down
Yeah,
on the
because
stairs.
it's
So
when I mean, I don't know how many
We'll
people have ever
talk
done it,
on
but just
that.
before you do the turn to go down the step, you
Mhm.
just like, oh, there they are.
And you mentioned you have basically three projects. We're taking the stairs. You're doing it right now. You just mentioned. We have the bid that's going to go out for the lookout and, where we're putting the wires and, down on the ADA entryway. But the third area on Serenity Point, that's really Wayne County, Oakland County Drain Authority, and Oakland County has taken the lead, right? They've done the bids, and so that's in their bailiwick. Is
Yes,
that correct?
they're taking the lead. That project, Oakland County received bids back on it last week, I believe.
Great.
They had 4 bidders. 3 of the bidders were within the range of what would work for Oakland County and the budget that they're
Right.
working within. And they'll be talking with, the staff will be talking with the Randolph Drain Intercounty Drainage Board on September 23rd regarding awarding a contract. So we should know in the next couple of weeks who the contractor will be for that project. And then shortly thereafter, we'll get a schedule from them.
Excellent. Again, another great placemaking area. 3 kind of little waterfalls coming down off of the Randolph Drain for the erosion, if you look there. And we have another 650,000 upriver by High Street that got approved. So that's all part of that Randolph Drain, which we have to keep up for the future. Good. Thank you. I just thought about that. Any other questions from us? Great.
Thank you for the update.
Super.
Excellent. Thank you.
Very much. Yep, just presentation today. We will go to public comment. Again, when you're making the public comment, we're a part of, the state of Michigan policies and procedures. You are on tape, I'm dating myself. You're on video right there. When you come up, you're giving us your permission to replicate, your voice and the video. So this will be on the city website and the whole bit. You have 3 minutes, no more on that. So you were all very good in the last few meetings. So 3 minutes, you have the timer right there. Those at home will hear you. I ask you to come up to the mic so they can hear you distinctly. If you're going to speak, just go online kind of at that table and write your name down. And when you come up to the mic, if you could just say your full name and address. So that's it. Thank you very much. All yours, Nancy Darga.
Nancy Darga, 516 North Center Street. As the chairman of the River Restoration Task Force, I am elated to find out that we have moved so far on the Randolph Drain and the Ford Field Gateway, especially the hell we went through on securing the funding. And I I kept my knee pads in case I have to go back to those congressmen for more money. And that's the point that I want to make. These two projects, the barrier-free gateway and the Randolph Drain, are not glamorous projects. They are almost like infrastructure projects. And if you've ever had dental work done, you don't want to go cheap on dental work. And I have this fear that we will sacrifice the longevity of and the artistry of these projects for the sake of budget. When we are taking on so many projects, I want to caution the city, you city leaders, that it is imperative that these projects as infrastructure project get our utmost attention because we can't do them over. Now, the playground and the bathroom and stuff are much needed and they're much more exciting projects, but staging of them is more flexible than staging these other two projects. So I implore you, on behalf of the citizens of Northville, to think through any decisions we made based on budget. What we need to think is longevity. We need to think, what do we want this thing to look like down the road? Because we won't be able to improve it. I mean, let's be realistic. And the other thing is, I am very grateful to Oakland County for taking on the Randolph Drain because they are the fiduciary for that program. But I don't want them to decide the aesthetics of Randolph Drain. They are very aware of my opinion on that.
They are.
So I hope that the River Task Force is involved in those meetings. And I'm very grateful for all the work that's being done on these projects. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy. And again, we're all trying to dive on the sword to do the right thing. Bearing the lines is the right thing for the next generation. We are killing ourselves to do that. We are still killing ourselves today. It might go 45 feet up. We would like to do it on the bottom. So I hear you loud and clear. We're trying to do the right things for the River Task Force, for Northville, and for that next generation. All yours, Mr. Berry.
Good evening, Tom
Good evening.
Berry, 239 High Street. The question I have, and I've seen it as a commissioner, we see presentations on that have been a design on what we would like to see. And we get a beautiful drawing with that gets community pretty excited about the opportunities. And then we go out then we get our estimates and we have to change how this goes. It's not a good look oftentimes because our wishes and hopes and dreams are identified by those sketches and drawings, and it pulls everybody in from the community. One of the things that I, in my past career did, and I don't know the process of obtaining funds and going out for bids on a design build basis. The federal government does it. I don't know if local government can do that, and especially as it's attached to third-party funds that are grants. But a design build works like this. You put together a schematic representation of what you would like to see. Could be a sketch, could be a series of sketches and a narrative. Then you set that out to bid. And what happens is firms that actually build also hire and or have in-house designers. So you get multiple designs with prices associated and so you review not just one design and then try to work with that design. You get 2 or 3 parties that can look at that design and come up with innovative ways and oftentimes cost-saving ways individually or as a group in order to do that. And then they guarantee the maximum price. So I don't know if the city's looked at that type of bidding, but but I would encourage you to maybe look into that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tom. Anybody else at this time in council chambers? Going once, going twice. Okay, I'm closing off council chamber. We will go on to, there's a couple on section A, there's a couple new written communications that came in. I think we all have that. You have your iPads up and going and your
Yeah, there
your
were,
paper.
there were two.
Right, yep, there were two. So we all got those and sometimes you had to update. It wasn't updated right away, but I think we've all read those things. And again, you can do comments right up to almost game time here to 4:00. And I expect everybody to read those before they get in here. We're not going to read them off there, but they're on the package. We've gone to a paperless system, so you have access to those two online and the ones that came in.
Yeah, sometimes they're not, like today it was close to 5.
Yeah, it was.
We had a late
But we put 'em-
arrival last time, but
Yep.
yeah, so they will be there.
Very good. So with that, we're going to section 6, consideration of approval of the consent agenda. So we put that out before the consent agenda was out there. You know, you didn't really see. Everything is listed in front of you. If there's anything we need to add, you know, let us know today, but we've kind of went through that already. We added a couple things to the consent agenda. I won't have I've had you the last few meetings, just read through that. That's in front of you for everybody's edification. You can see kind of the mundane things and things that are on and that are not, you know, that if you think it's more important to bring it forward, but everything is out there. So at this point, I don't expect you to read it again tonight, but if there's anything else to add. So with that,
We've already approved.
yeah, we've approved it. I just wanted to make sure you knew that. So going to 7, because I had to read that, wanted to make sure everything's there.
You approved putting the items on. I
Right.
don't think you approved the agenda. You didn't approve the.
Well, the way I said my motion, we
I
did.
didn't think that was that. I didn't think.
So I'll look for another motion to
Yeah.
support
So-
the consent agenda.
Yeah, my motion was to approve the agenda and
Go ahead.
consent agenda, yeah, as
Yep.
amended.
It was, so she'll do it again.
I'll do it again. So I move to approve the amended consent agenda.
Sure. And support, we had a support before. Any other discussion on this? Great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Great. Okay, so now we are just whipping on this. We are on number 7, public hearings. We have no public hearings tonight. Number 8, unfinished business. We actually finished our business kind of late last time. New business, we are on number 9, and we added a couple things at the end for some different meetings, boards and commissions. But A, we will look at right now, matter of approving the second reading and adoption of the proposed amendment to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 10. This is the dog license and the whole, I'm sure everybody's here for the dog license. Would anybody like to say anything about this? Any ordinance people? Okay. Going once, going twice. Great. So we're here for the dog ordinance. Anybody want to say anything? Anybody on your group? Good. It is pretty straightforward. We went through it in more detail last time. Justin, you have anything to say on that today? Great. Good.
I would say, just for those that are here, is that it was, it had not been updated in a very, very long time, but the critical thing was you can now get a 3-year dog license
Yes.
instead of just a 1-year.
That's good.
So that was,
We are actually going through all our ordinances. Some go back many decades. So we're trying to make them as modern as possible. And we appreciate the planning commission's look at a lot of these things. We're going to talk about one next on the tree ordinances, but we are looking through things that have been there since the dog was a pup, since I was a kid too. So we are looking through those, and I appreciate all the work from the staff, from the administration, and from especially the council, and going through all those ordinances. So, and on the planning commission, you've spent years on a couple of these. So thank you. So with that, are we looking for a motion to go forward on that today? That's in the package?
Yeah, I motion to approve the second reading and adoption of the proposed amendments to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 10, Animals, Article 2, Dog License as presented.
Great. We have a motion. I'm looking for support of that.
I'll support it.
Okay, we have support. Any other discussion on that? Great.
Thank you, Justin.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Great. So now we'll go to section B, matter of approving the second reading and adoption of the tree ordinance. This is another one that the planning commission has done a yeoman's job over the last year and a half or so, looking through the tree ordinances. We have a whole tree group, and I see many of the familiar faces out there, Mr. Porterfield and Mr. Barry and others on the planning commission, Steve. Thank you for doing that. We We went in a little bit more detail last time, and if anybody on the committee wants to say anything, great. But this is a work in progress, even though it's been worked on for a year and a half. We will continue to hone this. We will not wait years and years, in my opinion, like we've done at this point. So I appreciate that work. The work's just beginning. So to me, this is a living, workable document as we go forward. So that's your intro.
Well, I'm going to be intentionally brief because the sun's setting.
I know, and
So
I said we're going to be out of here by the sun.
The
No
first
pressure.
reading was approved at your last meeting. The second reading is back tonight for your approval.
Great.
Since that time, staff was contacted by the Mayor Pro Tem to discuss some formatting changes to the ordinance. It's all non-substantive. There's a red-lined version in your packet that shows the changes that were made from the first reading version to what's in the packet tonight. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
So on that, appreciate all the work you've done on that. So kind of from our standpoint, in my opinion, we look as futurists and approving things for the 27 boards and committee and all the work like the planning commission has done on this. We are not redoing all your work. I appreciate on this, you know, most of the time we're looking at it, we don't substantiate a difference on that. Today, though, all those differences that you put in there, we'll adopt because they were logical, and we have a red line addition. We have another that was
Cleaned it up.
gone through, cleaned it up. It didn't change things logically on the direction, but it changed, you know, grammatically. So that we're fully supportive. That I don't expect. I expect our administration and the 27 boards and commissions to do their jobs, and we will try to look at futuring and approve things. We'll try not to get into your crawl a little bit here, but from that, thank you. Thank you for all that time. That was a lot of time. I looked at every one of those
Well, it was a
opportunities.
20-page ordinance, and the thing with the planning commission taking this on, this is in our general ordinance. They didn't have to take this on. But they were seeing a challenge in the community in dealing with the current tree preservation ordinance. And their work is just simply amazing. All Justin and I did was went through and format and do some basic cleanup. All the hard work was already done. So thank you
All the
very
credit
much.
goes to the planning commission.
Yep.
Yep.
They did. And I can't say enough.
Absolutely.
You got Steve Kirk, Tom Berry, and
Anna Mary Lee Volley.
Anna Mary Lee Volek, who isn't here tonight. She had something going on, I believe. She got married not too long ago, too. That's something going on. But, and Mr. Porterfield, thank you. I mean, it has been tremendous. We're on to the next thing. We'll put
Steve
all
Kirk.
four of you. And yeah, and I said, Steve is a friend, and all of you have done an unbelievable amounts of work. We got a lot more ordinances, so strap on. So we'll have some more work. Sleep's overrated. So thank you on that. Go ahead. Anything else?
I'm ready to go watch the sunset.
Okay, so any questions on this? We went in more detail last time. You went over a lot of that. Any questions, any comments?
Brian, only thing I was going to add other than just the appreciation is this is directly addressing a concern, a burden that many of our residents have brought in. So I love the fact that we are responding to that, addressing it proactively and changing ordinances to respond in a better format, while at the same time and recognizing all the hard work of our tree champions. We are very proud of our zero loss tree policy, of our Tree City USA designation. And we have a lot of development that's taking place in town right now. And what that can frequently lead to is a clearing. A lot of communities see development and watch trees disappear from the landscape. So I think that this has done a really good job of walking that fine line of how do you have a policy in place that's enforceable, but also creates an environment where people have control and can live their lives without feeling like they're going to be facing difficulties as a result of the city that they live in. So thank you to everyone's hard work on that. I know it was a lot of work and a lot of detail.
Absolutely. Anything else from council?
No.
Nothing to add there.
Anybody from the audience on the tree ordinance? Come right up, Tom Berry. I can't give, again, enough accolades to Tom and Steve and Mr. Porterfield. And I said to Tom, if you have more comments.
It was a
This is
labor of love, Mr.
It
Mayor.
is a labor of love. And you've been in front of my house on that big old monster
People
tree.
on the audience that
Yep.
really love trees. And
Yep. We're tree huggers. We're
one
in
of
Northville,
the
baby.
things that I think the community needs to understand is that in order to have a really good tree ordinance, you also need a more promotive way of encouraging people to maintain and manage. We weren't doing that before, and I think this is going to go a long way to doing that. to giving them, even when they're doing construction, the city's going to come out. And if the construction is happening and they want to take a tree down, the city will be able to inform them how to protect their other trees. So there's a lot here in this. It was trying to be open as possible and to be as easy for people to understand. So minor and major projects, so somebody can only go to the minor. If it's a resident, if they want to take a tree down and stuff like that, we've limited it to 2 a year, so they don't clear cut their yards. So we walked a fine line because some communities don't have the city as involved in the residential aspects of a tree ordinance. And so we walked that line, and we think that's a good line that we have. We're managing the process. And one of the other things that are in here is the notification of the neighbors that a tree is coming down. I think it's really important that the neighborhood know that this tree coming down, and they just see a neighbor, they get panicked and they don't know what to do. They don't want to get into an argument with their neighbor, but they want to make sure that that tree has been identified as something through the process of the city. So having a sign or something like that that goes on, on the tree that's coming down or next to it, like a little fertilizer lawn sign, something like that, that would designate that. A couple other things that I wanted to mention. We spent a lot of time with protecting trees during construction. Our code now is a lot firmer in the area of how you design a fence for the tree protection zone. I think that's really important because we saw in recent memory, I'm sure a number of you have seen the snow fences falling down. So the city might get a little pushback as to the standards that are being set for the fencing of that zone. But I think in the long run, it'll be good. And I don't think it's going to cost much more for the contractors to do that. Included in that, one of the things that I was in the contracting world in most, so there's a lot of forgiveness versus permission that goes on. And we can't watch everything. So you make it so that it's really hard for them to ignore the fact that we have
part of the presentation. I'm kind of giving them a little bit.
Yeah,
more.
it is.
Yep. It's the presentation. So,
so one of the other thing that we did is we are now requesting they put a sign up in that tree protection zone that says that this is a protected tree zone, city of Northville. So it'd be really hard for a construction worker to be able to go through there. Little nuances. If they have to do construction to buy a tree root area, that the city has the ability to work with them to protect the ground and not take the tree out because of that. So there's a lot of really wonderful things. And I encourage the city, if they, obviously the city now has some work to do. A city has to, work on, getting the signs, actually putting together 2 new applications. I should say the tree champions have brochures that we would love the city to hand out when somebody comes in for a permit that identifies. And I think, did we give those out last time? Maybe we didn't have time, but I have some here. I'll give it to you after.
We will do that
afterwards. But they're just a little pamphlet that says how do you protect a tree during construction and the importance of trees. Those little things add up to a program that I think we can all be proud of.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
And if there's any other questions, if not, I appreciate
thank you
the time that you spent reading it. And
we have brochures right there. I
Yeah.
believe that Nancy has them, so she will give them to you on the way. Thank you,
So
Tom.
you have one question, like who would be in charge of the signs? I know the brochures if they come in, but the signs.
the signs themselves.
Yes.
That would be a city decision.
Yeah, when they come in to say, we're taking our tree down, one of the 2 trees that a
If
resident can
if
do
the
it.
city needs help and,
Our inspectors.
we
The
can.
inspectors,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
All right.
yes.
Absolutely. And I just want to seeing it's going to be light tonight. When you leave, go look at this historic elm tree in the back tonight. It is almost done. The dedication will be September 21st at 1 o'clock. He has been working all summer on this. We thought we'd get it done in about May or so. It's an artist at work right this second. Take a look at that. That was an award-winning elm in the state of Michigan. You know, it got kind of chopped off because it got debris on top and got hit by lightning. We have saved it and it's been chiseled out. That is all the kind of scenes of history through time in Northville. Take a look tonight and you can kind of see through, but the 21st at 1 o'clock will be a big dedication. That's again, the Tree Champions. That was on the Tree Champions walk and then is no longer on the walk, but it will be on the walk again as something to look at on history. So
One other thing I'd like to thank the city. I'd like to thank George and his team for helping and being available to us.
Yep.
One of the things that I think was very helpful is instead of writing something out and then sending it to you,
let's talk.
because this is a joint effort from the city too. So we needed their buy-in, we needed their input, and we received that. And Justin, thank you very much. And Wendy also was there to help and support us.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. Excellent. Thank you. Anybody else? Steve, please.
Really quick.
No problem.
Steve Kirk, 502 Beal on the Planning Commission. Again, Mr. Barry, Mr. Porterfield, Mrs. Anna Mary Lee Valley has done an amazing amount of work on this. But this document is a living document. And I encourage the council and our government officials to keep us in touch of how this document is working so that we can either fine tune it or shave it off. The old document, Tom, how long was that there? It was from cobwebs. It was an old.
It was.
Document.
Couple decades.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was extremely hard to read, hard to understand. I think that's one reason why this ordinance is not used, because people could not even understand how to fill out the document. So I'm asking you, as our leaders, keep us informed of how that's working. Maybe we'll have to fine tune it some more and come back, but at least we need to know where we stand.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything, Mr. Porterfield? Good. Thank you very much for all you do. Any other public comment on that? Great. So with that, we have an ordinance in front of us that we revised. You have the sample motion in front of you. We are looking for that to be on the table. Do you have that?
I move to approve the second reading and adoption of the amendment to Chapter 90, Article 2 of the Code of Ordinances, Tree Preservation Ordinance.
Support.
So we have a motion properly supported. Any other discussion on this? Seeing none? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Thank you very much. You have a new tree ordinance in the city of Northville. Thank you for all your work over the last year and a half or so. So now we are on section C. That is the adoption of, we've just put some people on council.
No, we did.
Oh,
put
we
that
did
on
that. That's
council.
right. That, geez, I
We're
put it
good.
on there before I put it on the consent agenda. Great. So we will go now. Holy mackerel. We might see that sun go down. It's almost there. Mayor and council communications. Just a couple quick things. Tomorrow, if you have any interest, we have Debbie Dingle and Debbie Stabenow coming in. We are down at the Fish Hatchery Park. We won some different awards and we are really opening that up now that we've spent $900,000 on renovations and $300,000 before that on infrastructure. They are here to get this up and going and dedicating it tomorrow. So at 10 o'clock tomorrow, if you don't have anything to do, if you want to talk to the Debbies, they will be down there and with a few words right in front of the Fish Hatchery Pond.
Sweet.
Absolutely. So that is that one. Number two, on timing, 9/7, which is Saturday, it's Sweep the Streets. You know, Dr. Demery and his crew from 9 to 11, meet at Ford Field at 8:30 for some cider and donuts, and then we will all go to work that day. So that will be this Saturday. And just know we will meet before this, but the Victorian Festival, it's coming, 9/20. We have a lot of different festivities. We're trying to get it really back to where it was. By our bicentennial, as I say, it'll be bigger than Ben-Hur again. So we are getting there by 27, but we are making one notch up this year. Also, I'd like, before I ask the rest of the council if there's anything else, just two quick updates. I'd like one from, I'm getting a lot of input and opportunities on water. If you just give us the water update, and I'm giving you the input, and just give us an update too on the on the ballot, not on the ballot, you know, from the state and the county. If we would have those two quick updates on that.
Want Andy to go first?
Why don't we do water?
Okay,
That's a little
so-
easier.
So the water has been quite a process since I got here. We have an administrative consent order. I'm talking about water rates. So people may have gotten their water bills and seen changes. Some people it varied. Some people may have about the same, a little lower, or some people may have been hit a bit more. And what happened is we've made some modifications to the water rates to be able to do much needed infrastructure. A big part of it was an administrative consent order, which is the state of Michigan saying we had to do some very significant changes to our water system. And they give you a certain period of time to fix it. So people may know, you may have heard this, that there's two ways we store water in Northville. One is in the water tower, which is great. And another is in underground storage tanks at the top of a hill. And that is not so great. You would not build those now. Those are an antiquated way of storing water. It works for now, but it can't be properly maintained. So the state of Michigan says those have to come out of the system. So what we have is a period of time to engineer a solution, which gets those out of commission, puts a pump station down at the bottom of the hill, and only uses the water tower for capacity and pressure to the system in the future. That, among other changes, are costly, about $22 million of infrastructure improvements over 5 years. We had a plan that we talked to council about to do about $14 million of infrastructure improvements, 15 over the next 2 to 3 years. The water rate increases and the ready to serve is a different way of paying for the bill, paying for those fixed costs that come into it. I think they're very important projects. So hopefully people understand we make no money over off the water system. It only pays the actual costs. So all the users pay the costs of the system. One more thing I wanted to mention was I'd heard people say, well, we got a question, is it because of the downs? Actually, the downs will hopefully in the future make our water rates cheaper because the fixed infrastructure costs, the water tower and all that will be spread amongst more users. So having more people using capacity and paying the bills will result in tamping down of the water rates. So it's a good thing having more users, not an expense. These expenses were going to happen regardless because the system is old. So a lot of improvements coming. We've had some conversations about it. If anyone wants more information, I'd be happy to share that. Is that
Great.
sufficient?
That is sufficient. Know that those tanks underground are from the early 1900s. There are two tanks that hold about 1 million gallons, 500,000 a piece next to the water tower. We are redoing those. 1 million gallons are underground up there, and it's time to redo the infrastructure after 120 years of those tanks. And before I go to the legal deal, on the dog license, Mike Smith, our clerk, did an awful lot of work on that. So I'm giving him credit out there. So that was time and talents, spent with all the dog people around. And we're one of those in our household. So we appreciate that. So make sure that's in the notes of life that we are giving him some credit.
One follow-up on what George, I think, we had public hearings about the water rate changes, the need for it, the infrastructure investment we're going to have to make, how the Downs development itself is not affecting this. This is about old pipes and old systems in the core part of our city primarily.
Yes.
But we did all that over time, but people have busy lives. And so now the bills are hitting them and they look different. Then there's a cost increase. So maybe drawing back from when we did talk about that in our old newsletters, maybe putting that out again.
Republish it.
Yeah,
That's a
because
great
people,
point.
once it hits their pocketbook, people pay more attention.
Yep.
So anyway.
This was a year process. We had public meetings. We advertised it. People came in. Some of you were actually at those meetings. So people forget, we've been talking about this and why we're doing this. So I actually forgot about that.
Yep.
Thank you so
We
much.
can- we can
It's been so
certainly-
long ago.
Republish some of the stuff because there's a lot of
Yeah,
great information out there that talks about these projects that we're doing, and they are very important projects.
Great point.
George, could we also add to that a lot of the lines running out of the older part of the city are not looped? And so we don't
Yes.
have loop backs.
Yeah, there's so many fixes. It's hard to go through. There's looping of it, which is for water reliability and water quality.
Lead
There's
pipes are still-
increasing the size and capacity of the pipes. There's putting new pipes in water mains because we have a lot of breakages, and breakages waste money and water.
Yep.
And result in leaks. So there's lots of fixes. Some of them is lead service lines that are going to be replaced. There's just lots of fixes.
It's long.
The biggest ones are going to be and actually there's the re-implementation of pressure districts. The city was originally envisioned with two different pressure districts.
Getting pretty complicated.
And I know, but it's really interesting. I love infrastructure. So it's good stuff. So the pressure districts mean that we could have equalized pressure throughout the city. Right now, we have high pressure some places and low pressure, and that results in some pretty inconsistent water. They're going to put pressure valves across this and put those districts back into place. That hasn't functioned in many years. So there's lots of good stuff, water reliability, water quality, pressure districts, lots of things that are coming in this project. So we will, good point from Mayor Pro Tem, we'll find some of that old information from a year, and that's not that long ago, and see if we can republish it so people can remember what all these different projects were.
Tell them what you told them, tell them
We'll tell them
again. Thank you so
Thanks.
much. And on that, I always say, it's great to have a bicentennial city and community. It is a great opportunity because our infrastructure is 200 years old and we had wood pipes in some areas. We took our last one out 35 years ago, a wood pipe around here. So it was down on display at DPW. So we have a great opportunity and we are getting ready for the next generation. So with that, just a quick update because we've talked about it and we just had a letter yesterday that came in. If you could do a quick update, not to put you on the spot today. I think you know about that.
Just, and as the mayor said, my name is Ann and I'm standing in for Tony. I'm one of the city attorneys, I'm actually the city prosecutor. So I hope I don't see you all on the other side or either side actually, a victim or a
I know,
defendant.
that would be good.
Deborah, just standing in. So as I understand, and Tony's briefed me, there was an advisory question that was requested to be put on a ballot. And I know that council had approved the language and that they had worked on that. And the question was to be put on the November ballot. It would have to go on both the Oakland and Wayne County ballots just because the way Northville is seated. And initially, the county clerks did approve it. They proved the ballot proof. They said it was okay. And sometime after that, the state director of elections had decided that they were not in agreement with the placement of the advisory non-binding question on the ballot. So unfortunately, the county clerks changed their mind and they pulled it back. And so then as I understand it, there was a discussion with the city as to what to do next. We could go forward. It would be considered emergency litigation to get it in time for November. It would have to be filed in both counties. So it would be essentially double for Oakland and Wayne. It would be expensive. And in addition, we would essentially be asking county judges to overturn the discretion that was used by their county clerks, and that may not bode well. So last that Tony was aware was that the city was not necessarily interested in moving forward as far as the advisory question was concerned.
From a litigation standpoint.
Well, and I am not interested in moving forward with litigation, and it's with the clear reading of the Michigan Secretary of State's her letter. She didn't just say, no, I don't think you should be on it. She wrote a very clear letter. She cited case law. She cited the Michigan Attorney General's prior opinions. And this goes back long ways. This is not new. And just to summarize what so why get involved in litigation when they're providing clear evidence of why it's not allowed, right? And so basically what they say is that the Home Rule Cities Act does allow cities in their charters to have an advisory ballot question. But although they say arguably, so they're sort of tenuous on, but they're saying, yeah, the Home Rule Cities Act allows us to do it, but it must be in their charter. So the city has to have affirmatively in their charter, have that as part of what they can do as a ballot. And as it's clearly said here, Northville has not done that, and they cite our charter. And so that's why they say they're prohibiting it, it's not advised. If you don't have the express legal authority to do something as a city, you cannot do it. So they do provide a good foundation for the guidance that they gave to both clerks.
Good point. Kind of like we are looking at all of our policies and procedures and ordinances. It's time to look at that charter. We're about 200 years old here. So we are going to update our charter here for once we do it, we can do it at one time for a lot of things. That will be an opportunity. We will look at that, won't we? Yes, in the near future. So that is something we're going through every ordinance and we'll go through our charter. So that's a great point. If we knew our charter inside and out from the 1800s.
But most cities do not have this system. So I have not heard that we're going to be revising our charter, but that's interesting news. But
I might look at it.
Well, you wouldn't open a charter for this question.
No, there's a lot of things. Everybody keeps looking at different things. If we open the charter, we will look at many things at the same time.
So-
Anything else that needs to modernize it in
Yeah.
the future.
And so as I have my mantra of governing, as the questions I ask myself is, the first question is, can we do it? And the second question is, should we do it? And if you can't get past the can we do it, then you don't do it. You don't even ask the second question. So,
Absolutely. Very good.
and that was why I was a no vote. So.
Anybody else, any comments here from?
Mine will be,
Closing
we're
comments?
still in council
Yeah,
communications.
council communication. Yeah, I am not help us out. Council communications.
So mine will be a brief one. It's another item for Saturday, and don't worry, you can do this and go watch the Michigan football game against Texas at noon. So hopefully we'll see everybody for Sweep the Streets at 8:30 at Ford Field. I'm just going to reiterate with the time and location. The second item I wanted to highlight is on Saturday evening, the Main Street League charity will be doing their largest fundraiser, the Farm to Table event. Main Street League is a wonderful organization that helps with domestic abuse situations, with people who've lost a job and need a helping hand for a brief period, or even this year buying shoes for students at Northville High School. It is a fantastic group and it defines neighbors helping neighbors. So hopefully I will see a lot of you there. And then,
I'll see you there.
I look forward to it. And then the last is, as someone with a third grader, I was very excited about passing the special event permit and making sure the Victorian Festival continues. And as just a note of appreciation to everyone, I know there's been some changes there, but everyone who has rallied and everyone who has made sure that that continues, that is a wonderful tradition in our town, and it is a great shared experience for all of our Northville families. And so thank you for all that made that a reality.
Absolutely. Any other communications from those on?
Mayor, just a couple of things. Last night at zoning appeals, the condo at 711 Center Street was reapproved. So that is carrying forward. And then also a lot of discussion in recent cases on generators and how we want to manage generators and so I think the planning commission's already taken that on. I've weighed in on a few thoughts, but it's in their court. I think it's going to lead to
Excellent.
some very interesting discussion on how we want to best execute that. Because certainly there's interest from the community on what the correct way to do that is.
There'll
I
be
think that-
more of those coming in front of us.
There's only going to be more, and I think we're just going to have to tighten up that ordinance just like we're doing here. And then also open call if you want to participate in the cemetery task force. I want to thank our chair, Dave Merrill. We had a meeting this last week. It was extraordinary. There's some people in this community that really care about our history. It's like the way my headline on it is we have great enthusiasm for our architecture, but now it's time to honor the history of our predecessors. And a lot of their stories are physically lost out in the cemeteries and also not connected to what's in the archive and everywhere else. And if there's no other community I'm aware of that's engaged in their history as this. So if you want to help uncover that, it's a lot of really interesting work. It might not sound like it. I know the people in the cemetery don't complain, so it's perfect. So
Dying to
I
get
think
in
that
there.
was it. And then also for Victorian Fest, I just want to co-sign on to that. There's a lot of work that goes into that. And we can't take it for granted because it doesn't just happen and it's come close to not happening. So if you have the opportunity to support it and pay it forward to the next generation of families that get to enjoy it like the third graders do that. That's not something that just occurs. There's a lot of people who have had to rescue that and bolster it and make it go. So just don't take that for granted. If you get a chance to help or on any of these things, please do. And also on that is zoning appeals. We're looking for members on zoning appeals.
Yeah, alternates.
Alternates,
So it's
yes.
just a little bit of time.
Yep, there's alternates on zoning appeals. And the reason why that's important is that if you can fill the table up here, I think you're more likely to get a ruling that is more satisfactory because of the minimum number of votes that are required. So if it's in your heart and you can do it and you're interested in helping your neighbors in that way, also take a look at the zoning appeals.
Absolutely. Anybody else?
That's it.
Anybody else? So just the last thing. Go right ahead and then I'll have the last one. No, go ahead and I'll gavel us out.
One quick item is that, One quick item is that council is starting a new round of Coffee with Council. So you'll see 4 sessions over the next couple of months, starting at the garage on a Thursday night. So doing things differently, Thursday night, 6:30 at the 19th of September. So trying something different, see if people show up, try it during the day, try it on the weekends. We've gotten some good crowds at different times. So come join a couple of your council members and myself, have some coffee and talk about city issues. So look forward to seeing people there.
Great.
That's going to be Andrew and Laura.
Yes.
Will be at that one. So the schedules will be out shortly on the web.
And just to add to that, I do mayoral town halls every quarter or so. There's one the 2nd of October with all the people running for school board. They can introduce themselves to. That will be out at the township because their AV is so much better than ours and it's a nice big open area. So, and it's a kind of a third party area. So we will do that October 2nd. If you get the newsletter or go online, you'll see that. And just you mentioned the task force for the cemetery. There's the bicentennial committee or task force. They moved their date. I think the 17th will be at 7 o'clock. The next bicentennial, they will meet every month now. We have so many things that'll be happening. We can't start early enough. I've talked to all these people that had a bicentennial. They didn't start early enough. We are starting years in advance. We're going to start and get everything done, aren't we?
And between now, so I was going to wait and have a discussion on that during the next meeting, but between now and the 17th, we'll be in touch. We have a number of sub-teams that have been identified that are going to need leaders. And so we are going to be looking for people that want to step up, get engaged, play leadership roles and help and make that a success. Nancy's already volunteered.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Although,
Sorry, I think we.
You're volunteer. Don't worry about it. You're in. You don't have to raise your hand either.
About to do cemeteries.
Yep.
Just make sure these meetings aren't on the second.
I know. So we found that out. So now we have really strong
When it was
people in charge
originally,
of
that's why we moved it.
So yeah, we moved it because it was on yours.
Riverwalk too.
Just the last thing before I gavel out, we asked in the last couple meetings, because we've had a lot of excitement here, just make sure when everybody comes up to the podium, is it true? Is it kind? You know, is it necessary? I had a teacher that sent me these 2 things. She liked it so much. Be kind, you know, so we put this on either side. So I thank everybody, you know, tonight, everything went very logically forward, but I got a kick out of the school teacher that she gave me a note from all her classmates, but gave me these 2 things. And I think I put on there, you know, as people came up, be kind, it's on there, but thank you so much. So with that, I'm looking for a motion to gavel out to.
So moved.
Okay.
Support.
So we have a motion properly supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are done.